What's going on, everyone? I'm back. I got my tea brewing, as you can see. Dun 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 dun. This is what I'm brewing today. My favorite, Perma Use. And this has been steeping for a good little bit. So let's push the plunger and get this party started. I'm gonna pour the tea.
Now, pour the tea.
I got my tea. In today's book, we are going to be talking about the Deed of Paxenarian 3-book series by Elizabeth Moon. Now, I've already made a running commentary on my shorts, but this is going to be a little bit of a longer video because there's some things to unpack, y'all. Okay. Sheep Farmer's Daughter, the first book. So, this book, I really enjoyed the world building. There's some excellent world building going on. There's some boot camp-esque segments where she's learning how to fight. She goes from being a sheep farmer's daughter, as the title of the book suggests, to being a full-fledged soldier, where what she dreams about doing and being comes into fruition. And I can really appreciate this. I didn't choose a college. As some of you guys know, I am a veteran, and I chose to go into the military as well instead of following the traditional route set before me. That's, college and etc. You know the joke, if you're either a doctor, lawyer, or a failure. But I decided to be neither. I decided to join the military instead. So that's why one of the things I could really identify with Paxenarian, Pax for short, is she decided not to be a sheep farmer, not to marry the person that she was scheduled or arranged to marry. She decided to go her own way and do what felt right to her. And I really love that. It built up this whole world. We learn about the rules of this universe that Elizabeth Moon built. Again, wonderful world building. I love the world building in this book. I love the realistic dialogue. I did some research, and it said that Elizabeth Moon had some experience with military, so I really appreciated the descriptions of the formations and the tactics. So, spoiler alert, as we get into this book, we meet Pax. She learns how to be a soldier, and she develops relationships with certain people. In this book, she loses 2 people that have a strong influence on her. That's Kana and Sabin. And she keeps their trinkets of the medallion of Gerd in her pouch and Sabin's horse. The way they get lost, the way she loses them is important, because Kana, they get attacked during a surrender by the honey badger, or Senaiva. And he's the big bad in this book. And the ultimate conflict here, there's other conflicts, but that's like the main one. They get captured, they get attacked by Senaiva, and Kana gets hit by an arrow. So and the wound starts going bad, and the whole time she takes this medallion of Gerd and tries to get Gerd to heal Kana's souring wound, and they describe it as a little pinprick, and she does not know if what she did healed Kana. And it's a question throughout the series. Is it something I did? Was it GERD? What was it? And I like how they created these belief systems that kind of can be compared to our modern belief systems, where GERD, for example, was a servant of the High Lord. He came from humble beginnings. He was also a sheep farmer. Kind of like a certain deity that was born in a stable and also had humble beginnings. But I digress. So I like how you can draw a parallel from the religions in these universes to the modern religions. So as we go along, the Duke, who she's now looking at the Duke like almost like a father figure in this, is what I can kind of gauge from this. And they finally capture Senaiva, and she's the one, she senses it. So there's always a question whether she has powers. Is she meant to be more than just a soldier? And that's a sheep farmer's daughter, basically. Her trying to find her way, trying to find her purpose. And I like that. So all in all, book 1 is definite. I like this book. And she gets the option to leave during this book. And in return for help for capturing Senaiva, the Duke has to make a deal with Allred to shore up his claim to the lands. And that didn't sit right with Pax, because a lot of wonky bad stuff is going on. Stuff that she had a crisis of conscience. So she tells the Duke it's time for her to go. And so he sends her to Fin Panir to train to be a Marshal of GERD. Well, not a Marshal of GERD. She's still kind of unsure, but that's where the Marshals of GERD, which is basically like soldiers, but for GERD. And she goes to study there. So she makes the choice to leave. And that is the end of The Sheep Farmer's Daughter. So all in all, I will definitely, I give this book 5 stars. If I had to give it something, I'll give it 5 stars. Like, I really love this book. The world building is excellent. The research, you can tell research went into it when it came to military tactics. You can see like the above ground, the flanking. Like, you can definitely see research and military tactics at work. And you can see some elements of the art of war from Sun Tzu as well, like woven perfectly within this book. So I was really excited to move on to book 2. Book 2, Divided Allegiance, is by far my favorite book in the entire series. This book gets like 5 out of 5, 6 out of 5. This book is the best one out of the whole series. Why? Because Pax, who's now a seasoned soldier, she expands her worldview. She realizes, she meets gnomes and learns their tradition. She dispels her prejudices against elves. And by the way, can we talk about why the elves are always discriminated against? In every fantasy series, it was like, oh, elves are such dicks. We don't like elves. Even in Rings of Power, which I will talk about later at a different day. But can we talk about why people are so against elves at all times? So Pax learns about elves and elf culture, dwarf culture, gnomes, and the different nuances of each of these cultures, and what is considered etiquette and what is polite in these cultures. I love how Paxenarian's entire worldview just shifted and expanded, and it was absolutely wonderful, because that is what happens, especially when you join the military. When you leave home, usually you grow up especially, I don't know if you grow up in a small town, but I know in like New Haven you don't see the world past your own little neighborhood, your own area, your own worldview until you meet other people. And in Divided Allegiance, Pax meets all these other people. She meets all these other cultures and she learns about them and she makes friends and she figures out who she is, and she still struggles with the idea of faith. Am I a Guardsman? Am I not a Guardsman? And when she finally makes the choice to be a Guardsman, she gets the tap to go be a Paladin. Dope. It's everything she ever dreamed of. Except in this, she's on her second mission. She's captured. And this is where the tides turn. This is towards the end of the book. So, spoiler alert. If you don't want to know what happens, turn this off. So, she gets captured and she's forced to fight her way through monsters and monsters. And she's like head to foot wounded. But she makes it out with one small problem. She is now, like, as she lay there almost dying, they had to go in and remove, I guess, the little inlet by making her kill all those people in the arena. They're saying that she had an opening for evil. So the Paladins and the Marshals just reached into her brain and tried and rip it out. But then with it, she was changed. Like they said, they took her courage. And she's reduced to all the things we loved about Pax. She's good. She's brave. Everything is just taken away. And they undid all this character development. And she's going to have to overcome this. And that's how they end the book. You know, she is terrified of everything. And that kind of hit me a little bit. Because, you know, a lot of veterans come home with PTSD. Now, not everybody's terrified of everything, but there's hypervigilance. And PTSD doesn't even come in all the same forms. It's basically, sometimes it's extreme irritability, sometimes hypervigilance, sometimes they're panic attacks, and sometimes it's dissociation where we don't know where we are. And to me, that's very sad. But it hit home. So, Divided Allegiance is, in my opinion, the best book out of this whole 3-book series is Divided Allegiance. It tells a great story. It shows character development, the expansion of her worldview. I love Elizabeth Moon's Divided Allegiance, Book 2 in the Deed of Pax and Arian. Now, let's get into Book 3. I'm sorry, Elizabeth, Miss Moon. I know I reached out to you via email to see if you would come on my show. It goes down in the PM and talk about it. But we need to talk about this. Oath of Gold. So she goes to see Master Okalo and she gets healed. She gets healed and she goes on to be God-chosen Paladin, which means she didn't go through Finpenir. And then she gets her horse. And I thought things were looking up for Pax. I was really excited for Pax's future. But I'm gonna skip right to, you know, and there were some really cool adventures. Her learning about the limitlessness of her powers. But then they created this wonderful, powerful woman. And she's very strong in her faith in Gerd because she saw Gerd and the lady and the High Lord who blessed her with Paladin powers when she's at Master Okalo's Grove. But now she's so caught up in like her faith that skip to the end, now Master Laird wants to prevent. Oh, spoiler alert, if you don't want to know what happens, just stop the video now. So it turns out the Duke is the Duke that she fought for in the beginning is the rightful heir to the throne of Leona. So the Master of Torments, which I think is supposed to be like the devil kind of person, basically they capture Pax. Pax takes the place of the Duke and his squires so that he can claim the throne, which is not what they wanted. And she says, I agree to be tortured for 5 days and I will not fight you, just you gotta let them go. And I'm just so blown. They turned her into this Christ-like figure, where she's strung up, she's beaten, she's raped, or graped. We can't say that. We're not allowed to say that on social media anymore. Graped, or essayed, tortured with hot stones and pokers, and for what this does not improve her character. Miss Moon wrote all this violence against this strong character and turned her into simply a catalyst for other people to better themselves. Why could she not just be a strong, standalone female character? She did not need to be tortured and destroyed to that extent to better other people. I just did not understand why we've turned Paxtonary and Dorthendaughter into a plot point, or so that other people can realize, maybe torturing people's wrong. Maybe, just maybe. I just don't agree with that. I really hate the direction it went. And I was really glad when she was rescued, again, by a friend who she would not have made if she hadn't gone to Finpanir and expanded her worldview like she did in book 2, my favorite one of the entire series. She was rescued by them. And, speaking of a Christ-like figure, check it. So she was betrayed by a friend. They were going to let her go, and Bara, who was a friend from book 1, bargained to kill her. Do we know any other figure that was tortured, killed, crucified? I mean, killed and betrayed by a friend? Judas? I mean, Bara betrayed Pax to kill her when they were supposed to let her go. So Arvid, her friend from the Thieves Guild, saved her. And she was able to save the Duke, restore him to the rightful place. But I think I took points off for this book because I just found the whole part, the whole third act, so to speak, where she's being tortured by the followers of Laird, to be unnecessary. It's unnecessary because those people could have converted on their own. You know, she was tortured and then they turned Layard's brand into the circle mark of Gerd. They could have literally done that any other way instead of taking this strong female character, warrior, and turning her into a martyr for the betterment of other people. So this book, Oath of Gold, I'm going to give it a 3.5. I round up, do with that what you will, out of 5. But the other books, 5 out of 5 for sure. And if I could give Divided Allegiance a 10 or a 6 or whatever, Divided Allegiance book 2 is my favorite book. So that's what I thought about the Dita Paxnarian series. And shout out to Mark Wyman. When I was 13 years old, put me onto this book. Except when I got the book, it was like a full book, not 3 books. But shout out to Mark Wyman. Thank you. This reread was truly enjoyable. So tune in next time where I review Sherry Priest's The Toll, which came to me as a mystery book at Barnes & Noble. And tune in later on for my mystery book reveal from this week, okay? See y'all later.